All right, good morning, everybody. It's time to work on the old TJ again. She's got a stock suspension except for a 2-inch spacer. This is the way we bought it. It came with the 2-inch spacer, stock suspension. It's got over 200,000 miles on it. She's pretty wore out. So we got 33s on it when we got it. That's what's on there. But you can see, get a little rubbage when off-roading right there. You can see it real good right there because we just went last weekend. But you hit the brakes, it nosedives. So I think these coil springs are shot. So we went ahead and bought, I don't know if you can see that, 2.5-inch lift kit for our TJ here. $200 I think, 220, something like that, online, Amazon. So I'm going to take those spacers out, take the old springs out, and put these in it with no spacers. And we'll see how she sits. Alright, wish me luck. I'll bring you along for the ride. Front driver's side. Front passenger side. Alright, we got the tire off, jacked it up, set it down on the frame right there. At first I was like, I don't know if I like setting it down on the frame like that, but then every dealership, every shop, that's how they lift. They use their lift points, is on the frame right there. So do all your safety precautions, jack it up. I got the jack underneath the axle right now just to help relieve some of the tension. After you get the tire off and everything's safed up, make sure that we start working on the anti-sway bar, because I'm pretty sure that's going to contribute to keeping the axle up. So we want to take it off so the axle comes down as far as possible to remove the spring, because there's nothing holding that spring in other than the location of the axle to the body. So we're going to lower this axle as far as possible. To do that, we're going to take off this anti-sway bar, which is a T55, and an 18 mil to take this bolt out. Take that out, and then we'll work on taking that shock out to make sure that we are able to lower that axle. Alright, now that we got the sway bar disconnected, put the bolt back in so we don't lose the parts. Start working on the shock, the lower portion. 13 mil on top, 13 mil on the bottom. Start taking it apart. Alright, change of plans. So we got the shock off. We dropped the axle, but that didn't do it. Because the way I have my blocks, that drag shaft was hitting my blocks. Instead of me having to jack everything back up, move the blocks, and do it all over, reset everything, I went to auto parts store and got these compressors. So I jacked the axle up, put these on. I didn't have to tension them, I just put them on and snugged them up. So now when I drop the axle, hopefully, well, I gotta move my jack stand. That spring will pop out. Let's see what happens. And get my jack to come down. Let's see what happens. Well, we're gonna have to try this again. Alright, we got the shock out, compressed it nice and tight. I moved my blocks. I was able to jack this all up, slide the blocks out a little bit, let the drive shaft come down a little bit, axle came down a little bit. This was on here. I plucked that out because this was up there like that. With this 15 milliliter is up there like so, and this was plucked in there. You just wiggle this out and pop it out, then that way you can get to that 15 mil up in there. Undo that, take my 2-inch spacer off. Yay. My apologies, I did not videotape much of the installation, but so far, of the front 2.5-inch lift springs on the TJ. It was not fun. I did use the Coil compressors tools from the parts store. It was not fun. You gotta really get them compressed. The driver's side, I was able to get it in without having to push down on the axle. The passenger side, I had to push down on the axle. Even though it was hanging, I still had to push down farther on it after the spring compressor was pretty much compressed. I didn't want to go but so far. So it's not fun to deal with those. So got it all back together. The trick is where you put the compressors compared to where the components are on the Jeep to make sure that they're not in conflict. Putting them on, taking them off, putting them on, taking them off, to get them to where they're not going to be either sliding around the coil to take it off, or when you're compressing the spring, the stock ones, to make sure that they don't slide around. A lot of time working with these springs to get them off and to get the new ones on. Once you get them in, obviously you release it and you put everything back together. I took it for a test drive, just did the front so far. I got to do the back next. Hopefully I can provide some more video for you for the back. Took it for a test drive. Wow, what a difference. What a difference. It is, you can definitely tell it's got a new suspension. Far as ride quality, it's not bumpy. I expected it to be a lot bumpier and stiffer, but it was not. I put new shocks on here earlier this year and a new dampener on earlier this year, and with all three, it's like a new Jeep. I can't wait to take it off-roading to see what it feels like, because I've heard people say that the ride quality off-road is bumpier. So hopefully I can get it off-road to try it, but I'm excited to get these back on. I'm hoping they go on easier. There doesn't seem to be as much conflict with components on the rear, so I'm going to jack it up, take the tire off, and show you what we got. All right, here we are on the driver's side. Got the tires off, frame suspended or secure, and the axle hanging. Still got to take off sway bar and the bottom of the shock, and hopefully she lowers. As you can see, we don't have a lot of conflict here. Got to take out that spacer, compress this. Hopefully these compressors, it might be a little tight. These are the compressors I got. Looks like it's gonna be a little difficult. Of course it's not gonna be easy. Of course not. I'll take you along for the ride. Alright, sway bar disconnected. Shocks disconnected on both sides. Got the jack holding up the pumpkin. You can see there's still a little bit of play. Check my vent hose, it's still got a little bit of play. Other than that, she's basically hanging. Drive shaft, or the pumpkin, she's got a little bit of pressure on it, but let's see if we can get some compressors on there, because they're still a little tight. Alright, here we go. Alright, we got our compressors in position. Looks like we got a little bit of clearance there, which is good. Got room to get a wrench up here. Got room to get a wrench there, and they left us a little slot there in the bottom plate for this compressor, which is fantastic. And we're not going to be able to use our impact because we don't have the room. Enjoy. Alright, one turn at a time. Here we go. One thing I forgot to say, once you get these in place and you have clearance and there's not going to be anything that's going to hit, start jacking up your axle. Jack up your axle, compress it every once in a while, come in, hand tighten them. You don't have to sit there and do one wrench at a time. I'm starting to lift up the jack, I'm starting to lift the Jeep off the ground, so now I know that this is compressed enough with the jack. I can go ahead and let down the jack, and that'll show that it's compressed, and we'll see if she's loose enough. Alright, I released the jack. Now you can see we got movement, but still not enough. So now I might be able to get in there with the impact and knuckle. See if we can't get this down a little bit more to get her out. All right, with lots of bouncing and this bump stop prying out, we got it out. Now we go back and forth. Boom, 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 boom. Loosen her down and put it on the new one. Yay! Well, this one's going better than the front. So after some wiggling, I was able to squeeze it in there. And there's this little piece, they call it the coil insulator. So make sure you wedge that in there. Once you can bounce this back and forth and put some weight on it to put everything where you need it. So now what I'm going to do is jack it up, try to compress this so it's easier to undo my compressors. Make sure nothing's bound up, and see how it goes. So I jacked it up, but it's not going to work for me because now I can't get to that to undo it because it's still too tight. So I have to be able to undo that. So I'm going to let it back down and do it by the wrench. Long process. It'll be worth it in the end. All right, it's in. So I'm not going to put on my shock or my sway bar yet because I want to do the other side first. It's going to be just like this. If I find anything different on that side, I'll let you know. Otherwise, we're going to put it all back together and see how it goes. Talk to you later. One thing I am doing differently on this side is I got it jacked up to compress the spring. I put the compressors on, but now I'm tightening it even more while it's still jacked up, so it doesn't have the full the full strength spring going against me. So this will hopefully make it easier if I quit dropping the wrench. So I just want to let you know, guys, again, I'm not a mechanic. I'm just trying to do what I can on my own equipment. I'm not professional. I'm just giving you guys a point of view from somebody else doing something that you want to do and what kind of stuff they're going through. Because the more research you do, the more you can prepare yourself. So hopefully this helps you do your project. All right. I'm not going to do this all day long. Well, if I have to, I will. All right. Here we go. We'll release the jack and see if we can't pop this sucker out easier this time. All right. I was able to bounce this around, get the bottom out. Now I broke loose the bump stop. Oh, look at there. And there we go. Tiny little thing now. Alright. Gonna get this spacer out next. I think it's a 15 mil for whoever installed this spacer. Try to leave that on there without popping it off. And put it back together. There is no orientation for the coils to go in. They're identical, top and bottom, the new ones. And there's no clip like on the front. The front had a little divot, where you knew which way to turn your coil. This side, the back, does not. Hopefully we'll be riding on her soon. This is going better than yesterday. Yesterday was the driver's side, full install, remove and replace, and I got the removal done yesterday before we went to the Kannapolis Christmas parade. So hopefully this will be ready here shortly and my daughter can drive it to school Monday. Yay. Come on, baby. Gotta go in the right way. She don't know. She don't want to come undone. All right, the Rough Country 2.5 spring, coil spring lift is complete. She definitely sits a lot better. The back more noticeable than the front, but I bet you I had stock springs with a 2-inch spacer from the previous owner. And when you're driving it, it was kind of wagging its tail whenever you came in and out of the driveway or went over some bumps. It kind of threw you back and forth. Even with the new shocks that I put on earlier this year, it still wasn't making a difference. I mean, it did, but not the improvement it is like now. I was expecting the ride to be a lot stiffer, but I think the shocks or the springs were so shot that it sucked. But now it drives like a brand new Jeep. I swear it's so much nicer now. I took it down a dirt road and I didn't have to dodge potholes like I did before. I could drive over the potholes and it was smooth. Going in and out of the driveway, it doesn't wag its tail anymore. It's a lot smoother, it's a lot tighter. But it's not stiff. It's comfortable. It's very comfortable. I was afraid it was going to be very rigid and stiff. When I hit the brakes, it doesn't nosedive anymore. We were getting a little bit of a shake in the steering wheel around 38 miles an hour. That's gone. So it had a lot to do with these springs being shot. So I'm very happy. After, I think we got 220-some thousand miles on this, it was definitely due. So I neglected to do it sooner. But now going off-road is definitely going to be more enjoyable. Even going down gravel roads and forest roads and in the mountains, it's going to feel so much better. So sits a little bit higher. Again, I think I gained, so I went from technically a 2-inch lift to a 2.5-inch lift, but since the springs were so shot in the front, I got at least an inch increase. In the back, it looks like I got over an inch increase. I didn't measure. I forgot to measure before I put it up on the jack. But the front, I gained an inch or a little bit more. In the back, I bet you I'm pushing 1.5 inches, 2 inches, because there was a similarity between the front and the back. Now you can clearly see the back is higher than the front. So it definitely looks a lot better now. But the ride quality is so much better, so much better. Obviously, it didn't help putting the aftermarket winch and bumper on the front and the tire carrier and bumper on the back with the original springs. But there it is. She's done. It was aggravating. It probably took 8 to 10 hours. That included going to get the compressors. I still got to take them back because it's just a rental. I don't need to buy them. I'm not planning on doing spring work every year. So hope you enjoyed it. Again, this is just my point of view on how I tackled it and what challenges I came across. I hope it helped you, and we'll see you next time.